Hi, this is Juliana. I am talking about our ethical concerns video. This ethical dilemma concerns a 45-year-old man who suffered from a stroke that has affected his cerebral cortex and is subsequently unable to speak besides saying yes and no. He has questionable mental status and minimal consciousness and is unable to swallow. The damage is expected to be permanent. The attending physician and two of the family members believes that his status will not change and that the patient is not of decisional capacity. The wife and two of the family members are not necessarily convinced of this and are considering placing a feeding tube. So the dilemma is whether to place the feeding tube so that the patient survives, even though the likelihood of the recovery is minimal. The patient does not have an advance directive, but the wife knows he would not want to live off life-sustaining devices. She still makes this decision that would she still struggles making this decision that would likely end his life. So in addition to the nurses on previous patient visits that this patient had, they noted that the patient had discussed with them that he would not want life-sustaining devices if something were ever to happen to him. So I'm going to take the stance that supports the attending physician's recommendation to not place a feeding tube. It's a very difficult family decision that I've actually been a part of as a nurse while working on the trauma med-surg floor at Breckenridge here in Austin. So when providing an ethical opinion, the nurse must provide an atmosphere that is open, honest, and respectful using evidence-based science, consideration of research regarding clinical outcomes, and the verbiage this patient had prior to the incident. In the state of Texas, in this scenario, the wife is the decision maker under the surrogate hierarchy without an advance directive. So the choice really resides between two bad choices. The choice to keep someone alive even though they may not make any recovery or minimal recovery, or making a decision that would ultimately likely cause the patient to die, which both decisions cause pain and guilt for the family members. So in order to make this ethical decision, we must weigh the pros and cons of each scenario with the input of experts as well as representing the patient. In line with the American Nurses Association, as nurses and nurse practitioners, our central goal is to promote and advocate for the rights of the patient, which includes supporting the wishes of the patient, even if it goes against family wishes. So my stance is guided by the ethical principles of non-maleficence, which means inflicting the least amount of harm, and autonomy, which is taking in account as much of the patient's wishes as possible. In terms of inflicting the least amount of harm, we have to weigh the pros and the cons. So the pro of keeping this patient alive with a feeding tube is to relieve guilt that the family experience is, as well as give the patient a chance to defy odds and make a recovery that allows them to live a life with normal mental capacity and the ability to independently accomplish activities of daily living. A slice of hope that can be offered to this patient is that the process of cerebral reorganization and recovery is slow and can take many months to complete, making the acute phase of a stroke a difficult time to predict the degree of ultimate recovery. With this said, a study that looked at a 90-day outcomes of stroke survivors who were middle-aged found that although outcomes were more favorable than the elderly, quality of life was not necessarily better. In addition to the potential for some recovery, there is also associated risks that are considered cons. Consequences of extending life with a feeding tube include the possibility of assuming the role of a lifetime caregiver, which can lead to caregiver stress and burnout, significant financial obligations, and unknown impacts that on the patient that could be harmful, such as regained consciousness without other advancements in mental capacity, language, personality, swallowing, or movement, or the unfortunate consequences of being bedridden secondary to his minimal consciousness. In this case, the two neurological experts have advised that they believe that he will not recover to a state that is more than the present. So in terms of the autonomy principle, we have knowledge that the wife knows he would not like to live off life-sustaining devices, as well as input from the two nurses who spoke to him prior to this incident. So although the patient cannot make an autonomous decision right now, we must consider these wishes. So in conclusion, it is in my opinion that the risk of harm, considering the prognosis, patient wishes, and expert opinion, outweighs the benefits of the feeding tube placement. With this said, I believe that families knows this patient best and needs to carefully consider each option and its consequences to make an informed and ethical decision. Thank you.